This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
I think we have the perfect way to end this wild, crazy week in the United States of America. Tonight, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul on Netflix. It's going to be the most watched fight, I think, of all time. When you think about it, there are 280 million subscribers to Netflix. You don't have to pay any extra. You just have to kick back and watch this crazy fight. The only problem is they're both Trump supporters. Now, it would be so much better. It'd be like a Rocky thing if you had one of them. Jake Paul were a big Kamala Harris guy, and Tyson was a big Trump guy. That would add to it, but I will be watching. I think it's going to be wild. 80,000 people expected to attend in Dallas for this fight. We'll get to it. We're going to get to our preview of the big showdown in Jerry Jones' house. But I got a way to make it even more interesting and jack up the numbers even more. How about on the undercard? I know there's some fights on the undercard. I don't care about any of them. There's a big fight between two women. I think some title belt on the line. We should have before this a push-up contest. RFK Jr. versus Rachel Levine. How about a 1 mile run? Pete Hesketh versus Lloyd Austin. What would you pay for that? Here's my new rule today as we wrap up this wild week where we had one what the F moment after another, where Donald Trump delivered on his promises, where he showed that the F around phase is over and the find out phase has begun. My new rule: before you criticize Trump's picks, before you go crazy and start screaming how they're not qualified, they're not fit, they're dangerous, Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian agent, and Matt Gaetz is a sexual predator, and Pete Hesketh is just not qualified. He's a TV commentator. Before you do that, here's what you got to do. You got to answer me this question. How's it going so far? How's it going right now? How is the current office holder who will be replaced by Trump's selection? How are they doing? I listened all day, all afternoon, all night, all morning about how RFK is a nut, a lunatic, a vaccine denier, unqualified for the position. And I thought, who holds that job? I mean, they literally said, he's not a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's an activist, how can he oversee HHS? I had to actually look it up. Javier Becerra is currently in that role, I believe. Rachel Levine is number 2. So you got these two fellas. Now they're going to be replaced by RFK Jr., and it's going to be wild. We saw this coming. We know he helped Trump, joined Trump in August. Trump said, he's going to have a role here. He's going to have a big role. And I'm thinking, everyone's talking about what a wild conspiracy theorist he is. And he's going to disrupt things in HHS. They ran a story. I just read it. Newsweek has a story. He's going to fire 600 employees. 600. Do you know how many they have at HHS? I hope it's more than 600. They have 18,718. 600 is a good start, Bobby, but you got to keep going. He's replacing the people who told us that you had to wear a mask. They told us you had to stay inside because of a virus which had a 99.5% survival rate for everybody 60 and under. He's replacing the people who told you had to get a jab or it would stop the spread. It would stop transmission. And then you had to get another jab and another one and another one. He's replacing the people who told you had to stand on little footprints when you went to CVS. And if you didn't, you were going to get sick and die. He's replacing the guys who told you that we had to shut down small businesses, gyms. We had to shut down gyms and leave casinos and liquor stores and big box stores open because the virus, it would get you if you went and worked out. So don't go work out. He's replacing the people who shut down playgrounds, who took down basketball rims and filled skate parks with sand and told kids to go home, stay inside, gather round, order pizza, get fat. That's the solution. That's how to prevent a virus that was particularly dangerous for obese people. And we're supposed to think he's the nut? He's the conspiracy theorist? Do people forget what we just lived through? Did they forget that we kicked 2-year-old autistic kids off of flights because they wouldn't mask up? He's replacing the people who had kids who were in the band at school, cut little holes in their masks so they could play the flute. Yeah, those people, they're the people of science. They believe in science. He's a nut. He wants to make food healthier. He wants to take chemicals out of food. What a crazy man. I know it's anecdotal evidence, but how's he doing so far? RFK Jr. is 70 years old. I watched this morning. I counted. He did 21 pull-ups. He is jacked. He is remarkably fit. I think he's a pretty good example of a guy who is eating right and being and exercising. Here he is. Count him yourself. 2, 3, 4, 5. A 70-year-old man who can do 21 pull-ups is just off the charts fit. We're done taking health advice from Rachel Levine, a old, fat, obese man pretending to be a woman who dumped his wife and kids in his mid-50s to live out his fetish. That's Rachel Levine. Rachel Levine, his number one priority is helping transgender children make the transition. A guy who said he was glad he waited till after he had kids because he loves his kids, but he doesn't care about your kids. He wants them to go all in on trans ideology. He's out. RFK Jr. is in. That's the deal we just made. And I have a feeling people aren't doing their research. They're not asking questions here. They're just saying he's a nut. He doesn't believe in vaccines. I mean, he's explained it over and over. When he was a kid, he said he got 2 vaccines. Now kids get 75 vaccines, and he wonders about the efficacy. He wonders how effective, how dangerous all the vaccines are. I'm all for asking questions. Of course, we want a vaccine against polio and smallpox and measles. But how'd the vaccine against COVID work? How'd that help your 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15, 20-year-old? Why did they get it? Why did a child need the vaccine? I will tell you flat out, because the HHS, the NIH, the CDC were completely invested in forcing the vaccine on everybody. That was the job. That was the goal. And you know why? Because it meant big money. And if you don't believe me, I really, really strongly suggest, I don't care if you like him or I don't care if you think he's a nut. RFK Jr. wrote a remarkable book. Here it is right here. It's called The Real, and it is mind-blowing. Pick it up in the bookstore and read the first chapter. Get it at the library.
Your mic's disconnected. Mic disconnected.
I guess I shouldn't be banging the mic with my copy of RFK Jr.'s book, but let me get back on here. Am I back, Ironhead?
You are not.
How about now?
You are not.
Technical difficulties. All right, let me log on and come back.
Just one moment. The Fauci doll curses everything. And if anyone's curious why the Fauci doll is there, it's because Fauci's always looking for TV time.
How we doing?
Beautiful. Resume.
All right. See that the little man, the little evil elf right there. He sabotaged us. I tried to show you RFK Jr.'s book, which I highly recommend. It is just eye-opening, and there's a lot of big takeaways. It goes through Fauci's whole career, but the big one is how much money the big pharma companies pay government employees. Yes, people at the NIH and CDC are making a fortune pushing drugs, particularly pushing the vaccine. Now, you could say it helps elderly people survive and obese. You can't say a healthy 15-year-old kid needed the vaccine. It was pushed upon them by our health departments, by HHS and Fauci, because they made a fortune. I'll get to that, but let's do RFK, because I watched this video yesterday, and it's just such common sense. I mean, he explains to you, he wants you to eat healthy. He wants your kids to eat healthy. We have a real problem in this country. Again, it's like talking about, oh, Matt Gaetz, he's a bad guy. He's going to use the DOJ to go after his political enemies after we just lived through 4 years of Merrick Garland going after Joe Biden's political enemies, putting them in jail, arresting them, censoring them. How are we doing so far? We just lived through a Lloyd Austin as Secretary of Defense, where we pulled out, you name it, Afghanistan, the China, the spy balloon, the pier in Gaza. I mean, how has the guy there now done? You're going to tell me that it's scary and dangerous to kick these bums out and replace them with Trump people? I'm going to have to see more evidence before I come to that conclusion. And after 4 years with this thoroughly corrupt HHS and NIH and CDC and FDA making money to tell you to take drugs, some drugs, and not take other drugs. I'm going to get to some of the payments, some of the money that has changed hands that will blow your mind. But as RFK points out, right now, 1 in 6 Americans has diabetes. 75% of Americans are overweight or obese. The obesity, just here it is. We are 13th in the world, most obese country. 43% of Americans are obese. That's not how it was when I was a kid or when RFK was a kid. I mean, we are right there. Other Western nations are much less sick, much less fat, much less obese than we are. I mean, you go down to Germany, 24%, Finland, 23%. I'm still looking for Italy. Italy, 21%. We're at 43%. So they're less than half of their country is obese, and they eat pasta and drink wine every day. Something's wrong here in the United States, as RFK Jr. has been saying over and over again. And if you watch the mainstream media, they'll say, oh, he's a nut. He had a worm in his brain. He thinks, vaccines are killing people. How about we focus on food and fat and obesity and diabetes and heart disease, real problems? That's what he's talking about. And we really should listen. He put out a 5-minute video the other day, and it's just amazing that this isn't resonating, that everybody isn't saying, it's about time somebody in our federal government somebody in the bureaucracy said, there's something wrong here. In this country, not in every country, but in this country, there's something wrong with our food. Watch this.
This is what most Americans innocently put into their bodies these days, and most alarmingly, into the bodies of their children. And it's no coincidence that Americans die earlier than Canadians or Germans or Italians or Japanese or Koreans or Australians or most any other comparable country. And it wasn't always that way until the early 1990s. Our life expectancy was the same or better than other developed countries. Then suddenly, more and more Americans began suffering from chronic diseases, from obesity, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, heart disease, and all kinds of autoimmune diseases. Our maternal mortality rate soared to the highest of any developed country on earth. Same with infant mortality. Like the frog in the slowly boiling water, we didn't really notice as we got sicker and sicker. We've grown now to accept chronic disease conditions as normal. But now in 2024, we're finally waking up to this cataclysm, and we're asking ourselves, how in the world did this happen? A big part of it is our diet. Restaurants that serve contaminated food are fined or shut down. But when it's the government that approves the poisons in our food, a few people get very, very rich, and the toxins end up in every supermarket aisle. Let me show you what I mean. Doritos, Cheez-Its, Cap'n Crunch, gummy bears. Everyone knows that these are junk foods, so maybe you wouldn't be too surprised to see that the ingredients include a lot of poisons, including a harmful yellow dye called tetrazine, or yellow dye number 5. What you may not know is that this dye was originally made out of the sludge that's left over when you turn coal into coke for blast furnaces. It's called coal tar, and I've actually sued many big industries for legacy contamination of coal tar all around the country because it's so toxic and it's so harmful to the environment and human beings. A century ago, it was just an obnoxious industrial byproduct that everybody was trying to figure out ways to get rid of. One of the ways that they did that was by paving roads. But then a British chemist figured out that the coal tar could be used to derive fabric dye. And if fabric dye, why not food? Food manufacturers began using it to cover up the discoloration of low-quality foods that they wanted to pass off on unsuspecting customers. They didn't know back then that this yellow dye, tartrazine, causes tumors, asthma, developmental delays, neurological damage, ADD, ADHD, hormone disruption, gene damage, anxiety, depression, intestinal injuries. Well, we know it now. We've known this for decades. That's why tartrazine is heavily restricted in other countries. In some countries, foods with tartrazine have a warning label that it may cause ADHD in children. Today, it's made from petroleum, not coal tar. Either way, it's crazy to add this to your kids' favorite foods. It doesn't even change the flavor. This yellow dye isn't just in junk food. It's in the foods that we consider healthy. It's in everyday kids' snacks like popcorn, mac and cheese, fruit snacks. It's in sports drinks like Gatorade and so-called vitamin water. It's even added to chicken broth, to corn, to pickles, to mustard, and to yogurt. And so, of course, our kids get sick. And we love it.
This goes on. And by the way, he says he could do this with like 10 other chemicals. That's one chemical he's talking about, added to all those foods just to make it look better, to make it more colorful. Isn't that worth listening to? Shouldn't we be listening to this guy right now, this incredibly fit 70-year-old? Isn't that important? I mean, I know I get caught up on obsessed with him exposing Fauci because he did it brilliantly. Fauci is still honored, celebrated by Democrats. Fauci still has a security detail for which American taxpayers are paying $15 million a year to protect this 84-year-old elf, this venal little man who told you not to try therapeutics when you had COVID, not to use ivermectin, which the guys who invented ivermectin won the Nobel Prize, not to try hydroxychloroquine, whatever. No, that's horse paste. Don't do that. for one reason. He wanted you to take the vax. He didn't want to deter anybody for taking the vax. And why? Because there was huge money in it. Again, read chapter 1 of RFK Jr.'s book. The people who still think Fauci was a wise and righteous man are wrong. You are dead wrong. We did not handle the pandemic well. You can blame Trump. He deserves blame. He listened to Fauci, and you could certainly blame Biden. You're telling me this man who's determined to get these poisons out of food for your kids and out of school lunches, that this guy's dangerous. But the last guy was the one who shut your kids' school down and playground down and told them to mask up and told them to get a vax that did nothing to improve his health or help him avoid COVID. This is crazy what we're living through right now. This is crazy. The media, once again, is completely on board with the Democrats, trying to stigmatize, trying to demonize Trump's picks because they're Trump's picks. There's a few Democrats out there saying, let's listen. Let's listen to what RFK Jr. has to say. By the way, his number one job, day one, eliminate, ban Big Pharma from advertising on TV. This is another thing, which is just a scandal that people don't want to talk about. I just sat here this morning watching TV. I started writing down some of the drugs that they're pushing. Skyrizi, Xiaflex, just these drugs. And I'm thinking, how does that work? You go to your doctor recommends some medication, and you listen to your doctor. That's what we're supposed to do. So why do we have this mass advertising for these chemicals, these drugs? One reason. It's to keep the mainstream media in line. It's to buy their silence or buy their ignorance. It's 75% of advertising, according to RFK, in primetime cable news, drug companies. You watch Anderson Cooper, brought to you by Pfizer. Do you think Anderson Cooper's ever going to do a story that reflects negatively, that exposes anything, any unsavory practices by Pfizer? Of course not. It is hush money to cable network shows and mainstream network shows. It's what they do. It didn't used to be legal. Now it is. And RFK Jr. says we're going to ban it again. Anyone got a problem with that? I think people don't even realize. I didn't realize just the corruption involved. I Googled this morning. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. The Big Pharma pays medical journals to review their drugs. I just Googled it. This is, Journal of JAMA, Journal of Medical, whatever. More than half of reviewers of drugs received general payments. Reviewers received $1.06 billion in industry payments between 2020 and 2022, including $1 billion to individuals or their institutions. They paid $1 billion to medical journals to review medicine. Do you think they revealed that up front? There is just such deep rot and corruption in this industry. We need an RFK Jr. We need someone like
crazy
this.
Thing too is there's only two countries that are allowed to advertise Big Pharma. Did you know that?
Is that what it is? Two countries.
Two countries.
Wow.
The United States and New Zealand, and that's it.
The only countries that allow Big Pharma ads, drug ads on TV. We're one of two. Why is that?
And New Zealand has insane restrictions that we do not have.
Why is that? And what? And you're going to have a problem if RFK Jr. goes in there on day one and says, no more of that. No more. You saw this pharmaceutical stocks plummeted yesterday when Trump named RFK Jr. You think that's a bad thing? You think it's a bad thing for a guy who is determined to expose this day one at HHS. I'm sorry, I don't. We can talk about vaccines all day, and I don't think he's going to ban vaccines. He might tell you the truth about the COVID vax for a change. That would be a good thing. This is a good thing. This is an exciting thing. We should all be encouraged. He's not a complete lunatic, as they're telling you. The lunatics are out. You know, the crooks are out. Fauci, he's out. The lunatics like Rachel Levine, out. There's a new sheriff in town, and he's not messing around. We'll get to some of the latest reaction to RFK Jr. and Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz. Trump is just not messing around. I can't wait to see who's going to be running the FBI or the press secretary. We can get to that again. Still waiting on the press secretary, and we'll get to our review of the big battle tonight. Does this have a nickname? Is this like the Thriller in whatever, something in Dallas, something in the big house? Because this is going to be, I think, among the most watched fights of all time. And one of the guys is my age. What a wild week. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
The economy is in trouble with inflation, high interest rates, and out-of-control debt. And don't think your retirement funds are safe from the radical left. Now is the time to call the only precious metal dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. They'll show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio with physical gold and silver. Call 866-607-4299. That's 866-607-4299 or text Gerry to 65532. That's true. RFK Jr. has a budget of $3 trillion right now. That is just wild. In 2022, we spent $4.5 trillion on healthcare, more than 13,000 per American. Anyone have a problem with that? You think maybe we should look at that? You think maybe we could do better? Again, how are we doing so far? How are we doing right now? How are the people in office doing in the last 4 years? And you're going to tell me that it's scary to get some new people in there, people who are determined to be transparent. It's scary to have Musk and Vivek exposing some of the fat. You know what? You want to hear an interesting number? I heard about this when they were talking about how where will Vivek and Musk make cuts. Obviously, the federal government is the biggest organization in the world, 2 million people, more than 2 million people. Gee, where could you find some fat to cut there? 7% are working in the office. That means 93% are still working from home 3 years after COVID is over. You think they're all putting in an honest day's work? And there are people against that, against taking a look, auditing the waste, the fat, the fraud in our federal government. There are people who don't want Musk and Vivek to go to work on that. Man, you really do expose yourself if you think there's something wrong with these 2 brilliant businessmen taking a look at our bloated federal bureaucracy and saying, we got to make this more efficient for the American taxpayers. But you know what? It doesn't matter. The media, they hate Trump. They're anti-Trump, so they're going to work. It is getting silly out there from the left, from the mainstream media in their assessment of Trump's picks. You think you might have heard it all about Pete Hegseth, just being a weekend Fox News host. That's all, just a Fox and Friends host. Also a 20-year career in the military, in combat, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, 2 Bronze Stars, written books about the military, 2 Ivy League degrees. He's just a weekend Fox News host. I mean, obviously, that is ridiculous. He's more than qualified. And the best thing about him, he's not a general. He's not on the Raytheon board of directors. He's not in the Pentagon right now. He's an outsider coming to reform the place, to clean up the place. That's his charge. That's his mission. And I think He's the perfect guy for the job. But if you watch MSNBC, they want you to know he's, wait for it, a white supremacist. Yes, they went there. Watch this.
The Secretary of Defense nominee, Peter Hegseth, the Fox News commentator as well, because this is someone who, weekend host, important distinction. This is someone who, is known to be a white supremacist, known to be an extremist, whose platform, whose book is basically about his opposition to the advancement of Black officers to the top brass. And
so gross they can say that so matter-of-factly.
I mean, this is defamation. He should absolutely, Hegseth should have a lawyer right now. He should be filing a suit against this person and Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes pretends to be, a journalist, an analyst, and he just sits there nodding as this woman calls Pete Hegseth the worst thing in the world, a white supremacist. He's known. I mean, I followed Pete Hegseth pretty close. I've been watching him for years. He's known to be a white supremacist. Is that all they got? By the way, he's talking about getting rid of DEI in the military. That is a good thing. That is a great thing. That is necessary. Recruitment, retainment is way, way down. And one of the reasons is because of that guy she just referred to, Charles Brown, who's a big proponent of DEI. So is Lloyd Austin. So is Mark Milley. So is Joe Biden. That's out. Most Americans want that out, particularly out of the military. And because he wants it out, he's a white supremacist. God, these people are despicable. It really is. It's something to see, watching them just lie. I mean, he's a white supremacist. Tulsi Gabbard, a Russian agent. That's what Dan Goldman, a congressman from New York City. He bought the seat. He's the heir to Levi Strauss, and he spent millions to buy a seat in the House. He calls her a Russian agent. What? A Putin puppet. That's what Liz Warren called her. A Putin puppet. Why? Because she doesn't want endless war in Ukraine? Because she doesn't want to send any more of our money to this pointless foreign war that we can't win? That makes her a Russian agent? God, these people they're just despicable. We have AOC. They're not just despicable. AOC's not. She's stupid. Okay, let's be honest. She's just dumb. If there's one thing we know about Tulsi Gabbard, she's anti-war, against war. She's in the military. She is now. I think she's a lieutenant still in the military. And one of the reasons she left the Democrat Party is because they're pro-war. They're pro sending billions to Ukraine and funneling billions to the defense industry. And she is against it. And she left the Democrat Party, and she's made it clear over and over again. She doesn't want to send American troops anywhere. She wants out of these foreign conflicts. She wants to avoid war at all costs. Listen to AOC's criticism of the new director of the of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
And we haven't even gotten to Tulsi Gabbard potentially having access to national security information. And Russia loves it, loves her.
And I actually think almost more than Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard's appointment is devastating. And Tulsi Gabbard's nomination, as much as she says that she's an anti-war person, she's not.
Yeah.
She supports very pro-war individuals.
Including
abroad.
in Syria.
And let's be very clear,
Yeah.
a Tulsi Gabbard nomination is a pro-war nomination globally. Point blank, period.
As is Donald Trump as president of the United States.
So, so here's where we are now. The leader of the Democrat Party, AOC, who is an absolute moron, says Tulsi Gabbard, despite what she says, is pro-war. Okay, why? What makes her pro-war? And then Joy Reid chimes in. Yes, Donald Trump is the pro-war candidate, the pro-war president, because he started all those wars, when he was in office. They got nothing. They got nothing. This is something to see, watching the meltdown of these wars.
This is why the mass firings are happening. I don't know how people that own this place can just look at this and be like, oh, that's a good product.
Here's to simplify it, to boil it down. You know why we got Matt Gaetz as AG? Because of Merrick Garland, because of all the weaponization of the DOJ. Right. You know why we got Pete Hegseth? Because of Lloyd Austin, because of Mark Milley. You know why we got Tulsi Gabbard? Because the U.S. intelligence agencies were out of control, spying on Americans. We're going to get a new FBI director soon. You know why? Because of Christopher Wray, that corrupt little deep state snake. They did this to themselves. You did this to yourself. Trump is the answer. He's the response to the last 4 years of this utterly inept administration, corrupt administration. These are responses. These are the counterpunches to all the things we saw in the last 4 years. You sent $200 billion to Ukraine. That's how we got anti-war Tulsi Gabbard. Merrick Garland raided Trump's home. Merrick Garland put pro-lifers in prison for praying. That's how we got Matt Gaetz. That's the inevitable result of what you did for the last 4 years. All right, we got so much more here. Damn. We got everybody coming after RFK Jr., which is glorious. We got Nicole Wallace with her guest talking about RFK Jr. We got Scott Jennings going to bat for RFK against, the usual night at CNN, 5-on-1. RFK pointing out, I love the idea that RFK Jr. is not qualified. He's a lawyer, a political activist. He's replacing another lawyer, political activist, but he's not qualified. It's just like Pete Hegseth, 20 years in the military and combat tours and medals, not enough. He didn't work at Raytheon. He's not qualified. All right, what do we got?
You have MSNBC on RFK. You want that one?
Sure. Let's listen to MSNBC on RFK. This is what you're hearing from everybody. Just, he's a quack. He's a nut. He hates vaccines. Okay, lady. What about the obesity rate? What about diabetes? What about our children? What they're eating? Does that matter to you at all?
Look what happened to me.
No.
Kavita Patel, Dr. Patel, your first reaction.
Oh my God. I mean, those of us who have spent our lifetime, kind of decades working in and around in HHS, I'm not kidding, Nicole, my texts are flying off the chain, both Democrats and Republicans saying, this can't be real. Someone must have gotten this wrong. This can't be possible. And now the second underlying chain, there's some silver linings. The second thought I had is, he can't get confirmed, can he? But I'm just listening to you talk about the DNI and all these other roles that require some sort of White House or confirmation or some combination. And here we are. It is really hard to believe. There are career staff texting me saying this was just the push they needed to try to get out. They were already on the fence and worried. We're not just going to see this incredible kind of integration of ideology that has no science behind it. But Nicole, we're going to see probably the best of the best career staff leaving these agencies potentially hollow that he would oversee.
Oh, the best of the best are going to leave. Yes, the people that told you to mask up your 2-year-old, they're going to leave. Not that. The people who told you that you have to get the vax because it'll stop the transmission, they're going to leave. Not them. The people who are taking money from Big Pharma, they're going to leave. Oh no, the people who said drug companies should be immune from liability, they're going to leave. The people who said you can't sue a company that if you have a vax injury, you can't sue. We gave them immunity. They're going to leave. Not that. Here's Scott Jennings once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 5-on-1. Scott Jennings trying to defend RFK against all these hacks who just got there. Just read the New York Times.
Thinking in this video at some point too.
What's that?
So the guy on this panel finally says what everyone knows what they want to say. He just comes out with the truth, not the disqualification.
That's true. That's true. RFK Jr. just drives them nuts. By the way, you know who else considered putting RFK Jr. in his cabinet? Obama. He was on the short list as a cabinet official for the Obama administration. That was okay. Yeah, he was just a bright, environmental lawyer then, a deep thinker, really smart guy. Now he's a nut. Watch this.
If we're being intellectually honest, there's really no good reason why Bobby Kennedy, RFK Jr., should be HHS secretary. An advisor, a confidant, somebody who talks to the president and advises, but there's no managerial experience in his resume. There's nothing that says he is qualified to do this job that is in charge of the health of all of us, all these different lanes. If he has views and has insights around food sources, around vaccines, then those should be given in advisory roles.
Why?
Because
what were the qualifications of the previous ones?
Well, I think it's important to always remember that you put yourself. Say that again.
What were the management qualifications? I mean, Xavier Becerra.
I'm not talking about the previous. I'm looking forward.
No, but you're calling into question whether he could actually do this job, and I think it's
absolutely. I think America is now, and I think
it's important to discuss it because Xavier Becerra was just a lawyer and a politician with no management experience.
So there's two negatives.
Sylvia Burwell was a Walmart lobbyist. Donna Shalala was a university person. Look,
RFK Jr. is a nut.
Okay, so that's different than what you just said. You just said he doesn't possess the requisite managerial experience, but then we get to the real issue here, which is you want to insult the man, which is your right to do because you oppose him in the election. But you, Doctor, are raising the issues that he has been raising, and I think they're appropriate questions to raise. I don't know whether he can be confirmed or not. The vaccine stuff at the table is obviously going to be the flashpoint of this hearing. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you one thing. This whole issue of the CDC and these public health agencies, look, public trust in the health regime in this country is as low as it's ever been.
But why?
It's because of COVID,
right?
Because of school closures, because of mask mandates, because this country was. But let me just finish. Because this country was drugged through a bunch of condescending and heavy-handed mandates that all turned out to be garbage, and that's why it's low. And the questions are valid.
And RFK is the answer to all of that.
Yeah, but RFK helped promote the assault on the CDC that lowered the disinformation that led to
CDC led
more
to
than
its
a
own
million
demise.
deaths, Scott. More than 1 million deaths in the United States, higher than any other industrialized nation per capita. That's the result of failed policies, the demonization of the conspiracy theories.
Whose policies?
All right,
under the Trump administration.
John,
Listen to that. That is unbelievable. That guy, that clown, John Avlon, says it's RFK's fault, and the right-wing media for demonizing the people who failed during COVID. He just said it. More deaths than any developed nation. Obviously, they were wrong about everything. The people who are there now were wrong about everything. And it's RFK's fault because he wrote a book detailing just how wrong they were at every step. I've never in my life read a more well-researched book. It's 480 pages. Half of it is footnotes. It is remarkably comprehensive, well-researched, detailed. You got to read it. You got to read it to believe just how corrupt these people were. And they had the media on their side, and they still do. They still do after failing this country. For hell, I haven't even mentioned the fact that we funded the research that led to the outbreak of COVID. And Fauci lied about it over and over under oath. Yes, I do believe Trump is considering arresting Fauci, charging Fauci, and he should. And the media will lose their minds, but it's about time. This evil little elf we had a reckoning with him because he's a bad, bad guy. And the next guy, RFK or someone else, will be an upgrade, just like in all these other cabinet positions. All right, I got so much more to get to. On this Friday, we're going to get to the big fight. Oh, and one of the crazy ladies who was screaming on social media, threatening to kill Trump supporters. Speaking of reckonings, she had her reckoning, and she's not handling it well. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
All right, small business owners, listen up. If you're tired of losing money to credit card processing fees, we've got something you need to hear. With 24/7 payments, you can eliminate up to 99% of those fees thanks to their fee elimination program. Here's how it works. You pass the processing fees on to customers who pay with credit cards, and in return, you can offer them a discount for paying with cash or debit. It's a simple, effective, and fully compliant way to save thousands every month. Right now, 24/7 Payments is switching over 250 businesses every month to this program, and they can have you set up in less than 24 hours. Call 855-504-0799 today or visit them on the web at 247payments.com. That's the numbers 247payments.com. Are your loved ones aging? Has walking become difficult for your parents, your grandparents? It's tough. I've been there. I know lots of you have been there too. Stairs can often be a challenge for them. It's also a significant risk of falling. Well, Lifeway Mobility, one of the largest providers of accessibility solutions, offers stair lifts, wheelchair ramps, home elevators, transfer aids, and bath safety solutions to improve safety, independence, and quality of life at home. Most of their solutions are made in the USA, and they provide professional installation and service. Gain peace of mind and help loved ones stay safe at home. Schedule a free consultation when you call Lifeway Mobility at 888-780-7923. They have locations across the U.S. with showrooms for you to see and test their products. They're also rated the best stair lift company by the National Council on Aging and by U.S. News, and they have over 6,000 five-star reviews. Call 888-780-7923 or visit lifewaymobility.com for your free consultation. That's 888-780-7923. All right, we've all seen the videos over the last 10 days, and they've been great. Just liberal cat ladies screaming, howling at the moon about the result of the election and crying and weeping and threatening Trump supporters and saying they're not going to have sex with Trump supporters and not going to have Thanksgiving dinner with anyone who voted for Trump. It's been fun. Let's be honest, it's been great. But sometimes these rants, these threats have consequences, and such is the case in Connecticut. This is from Fox News. A special education teacher in Connecticut has resigned after a viral video surfaced of her going on a rant and threatening violence and harm to supporters of Donald Trump. Did she think she could do this and no one would notice? I mean, this is what Libs of TikTok does. She exposes these people, and sometimes there's a price to pay. Her name is Ann Dunleavy, and she went on a local station in Connecticut, and the host, it was great here, he literally reads her words to her and says, what were you thinking, lady? Watch this.
If you voted for Trump, literally, please delete me, block me, get rid of everything of me, or step to me so that I know what's up and then I can handle you how I see fit. Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the blank you voted for. You're not in the clear. Please don't test your gangster on me because you will end on a stretcher, gone forever. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so
it sounds like a threat.
It sounds very extreme. And again, I was in a moment of high emotions and I shouldn't have ever posted the video. But the message I was trying to get across, and it came off very wrong, was, if this is going to give people the almost permission in their minds to enact violence against women or anybody, I wanted to basically just say, I'm not going to go down without a fight. I mean, it's my life's dream to be a teacher. I consider those kids my kids because I don't have any of my own. And they fill that for me. And it's so fulfilling. It's so rewarding. And I know that what people see right now, I don't look like that person, but I truly would do anything to help any child and any family in need.
Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the you voted for. You're not in the clear. And just please don't test your gangster on me, because you will end on a stretcher, gone forever.
You will end on a stretcher, gone forever. And she's weeping. She's saying, I'll do anything for those families. What if the families voted for Trump? What would you do then? Kill them? She was fired by the Connecticut school. The principal made the announcement. Let me get to, and school superintendent said in a statement, he was made aware of her Snapchat video and said, unfortunately, it came to my attention over the weekend that someone had taken a video of one of our teachers. No, she took it herself, sir. And what she intended to do on Snapchat, she was expressing her personal feelings, not those of the Cheshire Public Schools. That being said, it is immediately clear that it'll be impossible to conduct business as usual for our students and staff without temporarily removing the teacher from the building. So we have done so until the outcome of an investigation. So she's out and she's crying and begging for mercy. What did you think was going to happen, lady? You literally said you were going to kill Trump supporters.
You know, it's crazy though. A few years ago, she would have been just fine.
That's true. I'm surprised, actually, to be honest with you. I'm surprised. I've seen a lot of these videos. I'm not sure all the angry cat ladies, childless cat ladies like Ann Dunleavy are actually paying a price for their threats of violence. Yeah, and Trump supporters, they're the violent ones, sure. By the way, she really think she's going to like beat up, kill Trump supporters? I wasn't really intimidated by Miss Dunleavy, but you know who I am intimidated by? 58-year-old Mike Tyson. Let's get to this. The big fight tonight on Netflix, which means I will be watching. I can't remember the last time I watched a big fight, and I don't even know if this qualifies, but it sure is an attraction. It sure is interesting to see 58-year-old Mike Tyson versus 27-year-old Jake Paul. Jake Paul is a heavy favorite. Tyson he was plus 225. It's down to plus 170 because according to ESPN Bet, 91% of the bets have come in on Tyson. Everybody is betting on Tyson and rooting for Tyson because Jake Paul is just so annoying. It's an 8-round fight, 2-minute rounds to accommodate the old guy. The over-under on how long it lasts is 6.5 rounds. Jake Paul is 10-1. He lost one fight to amateur Tommy Fury. Mike Tyson is 50-6. I think he won his first 33 or 34 fights with 44 KOs. No one's quite sure how much money they're making. The estimate is $20 million for Tyson, $40 million for Jake Paul to go in there and fight a 58-year-old man. It's going to be tough. Let's be honest. Tyson is scary. He's still Mike Tyson. He still looks scary. His training videos have been amazing. I think he's in really good shape. It's kind of like not quite as fit as RFK Jr. Here he is yesterday slapping Jake Paul across the face. That was Tyson's not saying much. Jake Paul's doing all the talking, but he just takes the stage, walks over and slaps Paul across the face. Good move.
He stepped on Tyson's foot. That's why he did it.
And Paul responded by calling Tyson an angry little elf. Here he is in his little thong underwear, smack right across the face. And Jake Paul says, it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt. Here's my prediction. It's going to be, I'm going to root for Tyson just for the theater of it all. Nothing against Jake Paul. He's kind of obnoxious, but he is a Trump supporter and he is an entrepreneur, and man, does he know how to make money. And Tyson, I'm sure, needs the money more than Jake Paul, but I'm going to root for Tyson because I'm rooting for the story. I'm going to predict a decision, 8-round decision, and we're going to be disappointed that there wasn't enough action. I always look at Tyson and say, how do you beat him? I mean, he's just small. He's short and stocky. He's technically good, and his hands are up, and it just seems so hard to get to him.
Get past the first 3 rounds, and you're much better.
Yes, and I think he's in good enough shape to make it 8 rounds, 2-minute rounds. I think
he's
he can do that.
Humongous right now. Look at him.
He is scary looking. I'm telling you, there's a little part of Jake Paul who's a little scared, a little nervous right now because it's still Mike Tyson, and he's in great shape. Look at, he's jacked, and he's not talking. He's just kind of sitting there with that angry look on his face. Yes, he's an angry elf, but a scary elf. Most of the country, most of the world is going to root for Tyson, which is amazing. He used to be the bad guy. Now he's the good guy. Jake Paul's the bad guy, but it is going to be huge. Again, I'm going to guess 100 million viewers. If you get 1 out of 3 Netflix subscribers Hell, you'll get people who aren't Netflix subscribers going over to their next door neighbor's house. There will be 100 million people around the world watching this. The pressure is on, and 80 million people in the house. And tickets aren't cheap. It's going to be a spectacle like we haven't seen in a long, long time, because all the big fights, all the big UFC fights, they're all on pay-per-view. So the audience is limited, not this one. So I'm looking forward to it. Go, Mike. Go, Mike, go. But I don't think he's going to pull it out. But I'll be rooting for him just like most of the world. And we will see what happens. But that will do it for today and for this wild and crazy week. Man, you know what? We're going to be back Monday, and we're going to be talking about just some, the FBI director, the press secretary. I'm still thinking Alex Jones has a shot, needs a job, and Donald Trump is not messing around. By the way, the View, we never got to this, said they want to add a conservative voice. That's going to be wild. Because whoever the conservative voice is will be the smartest person at the table. Lots of rumors. Let's see the
Never
list
be
we
allowed
have.
to speak either.
The Outkick did a poll, and you had Roseanne was the number one pick. Roseanne, that would be wild. She's crazy. Candace Owen, Michelle Tafoya, I like that one. But of course, the best choice to do this job is Ann Coulter. She would be just spectacular. That would be must-watch TV. But we'll see who they pick, and we'll see who Donald Trump picks going forward. It's just going to be nonstop. This is just a wild time to be alive. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we'll do it again Monday morning.